Yes.
So, yeah.
And especially some of the authors aren't very good readers either.
That's true. Some authors are better at writing than reading. Or
I've
speaking, should we
discovered
say.
that with my audiobooks.
Yes.
Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
This is Going Solo Media, and it's Let's Talk About Dating with Christine and Barry. And today we're going to talk about the three. I love this because it's like you don't even know what they are. What are the 3 words you don't want to hear from your date? And I think you should set up because you came up with this subject. And
Absolutely. So the topic today is the 3 words you don't want to hear on your dates. And because most people are going to go, I want them to say I love you. It's like, that's not what I'm talking about.
But maybe not that either.
Well, there is that too, yes. So yeah, the 3 words you don't want to hear on a date. And let me preface this by saying that if you've listened to me on any of my video rants, or when I've been on Clubhouse talking about this, or in my podcast appearance last week, which is where this topic came up a lot, is I use these 3 words to explain in simple terms the dysfunction and pain of codependency. The trouble is, though, these 3 words, most women especially, go, "Oh, that's so romantic, that's so wonderful," and because it was done as a leading man in a movie. The 3 words come from a movie. So yeah, it's like I remember because when I first watched a movie and I was in the theater and I heard him say this to her, all the women were like, "Oh," and I'm like, "No." So without further ado, those 3 words are "you complete me." Yes, thank you for that. For CC putting up the caption. You never say "you complete me." It's the trap of codependency. Exactly, because to put it simply put, is it sounds so romantic, but it also creates such a setup for dependent upon the other person, because it implies, first of all, that the person who's saying it isn't complete. They're missing something. They've got a gap somewhere, or they've got a crack in their armor, which, well, crack in armor can be a good thing, but they're missing something. The second part is that you have what it takes to make them feel whole, which puts a lot of responsibility on your plate. So may nobody ever tell you that you complete them, please, for your own sanity.
And it's an imbalance of control,
Yes.
an imbalance of feeling empowered. It's not a partnership foundation at all.
No.
You can't have a partnership if one person feels so out of balance. And I think both sides feel out of balance. The person that says "you complete me" and the person that's like, "Really? What am I supposed to do about that? What am I supposed to do with that?"
Right.
That is a lot of pressure. As you said, it really is, because as you and I talk frequently, to have a whole healthy relationship with yourself, which is what you need to now have a whole healthy relationship with another person,
you
need to feel pretty darn complete. And that's certainly not saying there aren't things to still learn and to still, do course correcting, that you don't feel like you have big chunks missing. You don't have big things that need major adjustment, that when you're in that place, you're like, I need to work on this by myself,
right,
or with a professional, rather than looking for somebody from the outside. As I see sometimes, there's the memes of, there'll be somebody that'll love you so much all your pieces will go back together, and I'm like, ugh. I know, isn't that terrible that I say that? But that's why I married the first time. I really did marry the first time, very clearly saying, "Oh, look at all those things that I perceive he has that I don't think I have, and it's going to make me a better person being married to him." And I am here to tell you that does not work that way.
No,
it didn't work that way at all, and there was such an imbalance of power for both of us for different ways. His was the overbearing, controlling decisions, and mine was, well, I'm the one that's making all the money, so I should be the person that gets to decide about it. And it was inequity all across the board.
Oh yeah. Oh, let's say it this way, because that idea about the other person has everything he wants, you want to marry, sort of marrying up, so to speak.
Yeah.
Most of certainly my parents' relationship, and most relationships of the 50s, I suspect, were largely based on the same model. Whereas basically, that he would save her or would take her away from her parents' family dynamic to be like a housewife and everything else, which was unfortunately the common model, which is only 50, 60 years ago. So there's this discrepancy or this misalignment where people still run that programming, even though they don't necessarily subscribe to it. They still run it automatically because it's sense somehow that when you're in a relationship, it makes you feel better. It makes you feel complete. It makes you, et cetera, et cetera. Because the discrepancy or dysfunction with that is that you're giving somebody else the power to make you feel good or bad. And that is the thing you do not want to give anybody, no matter how much you may love them. And I'm thinking of a few clients and a lot of friends who have been escaping narcissistic relationships the last several months. I've been talking to them about this. There are so many gaps in the understanding because they were so entranced by and it's mostly women, because men have it too, but mostly women who were facing it, where a man would just they'd be so enamored with him because he was such a gentleman. He did everything for them, making us feel so wonderful, which is extremely inviting and very sexy and very romantic. But as soon as they get in a relationship, the dysfunction starts setting in, or I should say the true colors start showing up. And that diminishing and demeaning methodology of the way their ex treated them before they escaped and made them feel so bad was actually forcing them into codependency. Because the challenge with this is and this is why it's almost a cautionary tale for women out there who are running lives and making them feel really strong and independent, especially when they're empathic. Because what seems to be one of the traits of women who suffer from narcissistic relationship is they're already empathic because they get pulled into that energetic. So you've got to watch your boundaries really clearly. Is that they get pulled into this wonderful relationship where you think the man's going to treat them as an equal, and then when he gets in his pincers, so to speak, he spends his whole time diminishing you and putting you down, making you feel bad. So you feel totally dependent upon his good graces to feel okay, which is the trap of codependency.
Yep.
Now, we're not going to go on the narcissistic talk in this conversation. However, that's an extreme example of what that's about. But it happens everywhere. Codependency is so rampant, if that's the right word, in our culture because we've been trained that way for so many years. And as you were saying, like the fact if you're looking for somebody who is not complete, like somehow that you're only 50%, therefore you'll find someone else is 50% to make a whole. That means neither one of you are making a contribution to a relationship because you're pulling from each other.
Yeah.
And I think we said this before, but a relationship is not 50-50, it's 100-100. So a relationship is 200% or more because it's greater than the sum of the parts. And so that thing about you complete me is an absolute, I was going to say counterattack is the wrong word, but it's such a contrast to what is truly a healthy relationship.
Yes. And you end up feeling less complete, which is the dichotomy about the whole thing. And what I found, certainly for me, and I could so hear it from my clients, both male and female, that if you weren't, so fun to find people that were, if you weren't felt important or nurtured or cared about or truly loved when you were growing up, you're going to feel less than, probably, and you're going to keep looking for it from the outside because when you're a child, that's the only way to get it is from the outside. And if you didn't get it from the outside, you're still looking for it to get that place inside of you to get filled from the outside. And it just can't. It just can't. As much as we believe it can and want it to and try really hard and get dashed, our hearts smashed to smithereens because we'll pick the wrong people. And I'll even take a right person after that. But first I'll keep saying, continue the thought of you have to do it, give it to yourself. That's really where it needs to come from. That if you didn't get mommied or daddied, you need to mommy or daddy yourself and figure out what is the place inside of you that's empty or broken or out of alignment to having a healthy view of yourself and that you are enough and a good person. Where is that? What kind of words did you hear when you were growing up? How can you dialogue those words for yourself? I mean, it's one of the things you and I do with our clients is to help them heal some of those old wounds so that no matter what is happening out inside of you, you're still standing. You're still able to keep yourself going along, even through the dips. And what I found too, which is such an interesting discovery for people, is if you do end up meeting somebody that's more whole, they were raised by loving parents or have done this kind of work, they're not going to be as attracted to you. It's usually people that have the empty places that are attracted to each other.
Right.
Because we both go, oh, you're going to fill my empty place and I'm going to fill your empty place. And isn't everybody hunky-dory, where you want to go, no, I want to find somebody that has lots of full places because I have lots of full places. And we're just filling each other up even more. You're like little topping up. With topping up is good, but not empty. Empty's so bad for our mental and emotional health.
And the thing is, it is that place. I mean, I know, and I think that's one of the things for us as men in a way that can be a trap for us, because we are innately like problem solvers. Our gift, our skill set is to like fix things and make things better. So when we find it, and I think I shared this before, I shared it somewhere, I'm not sure. I had so many interviews recently, I'm like, did I share it here? Anyway, I talk about the white knight experience that I had when I was younger, and how I would find so many damsels in distress that basically were women who were wounded or incomplete, and I would attempt to fill up those gaps they had. And it was such a great service. I felt like I'm the hero, I'm the honorable, and I was drained completely. And women do the same thing with men. They will save the man because they see his potential. The biggest trap, and we talked about this before, last week even, or before, we talked about this, about how women fall in love with men's potential.
Yeah.
Bad move.
Yeah.
If he's on the path where he's going and you want to join on the road with him, that's great. If you see where he's going, that's beyond the road, that's great. But if you're looking to have a a fixer-upper,
yeah,
or a service project, that's not that's not the basis for a good relationship.
No.
So
for the people that keep attracting somebody like that, the broken wing, the depressed, the person that just can't quite get their life together, if you're attracted to that, then it's really important to look inside, because it's probably some of what's have a challenge for you, that you don't feel good enough, lovable enough, smart enough, skinny enough, tall enough, short enough, whatever the enough thing is that you think that you're not. That's the thing that you need to concentrate and work on, because it's going to make you very vulnerable for either somebody that's equally or more broken, or somebody who's a predator.
Right. Who will
like
feed
the
on
narcissist people.
Exactly.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
So one of the little images I want to put on the table for those people who are going, what does that mean exactly? Is that basically, if you're noticing you're attracting somebody who is missing bits, so to speak, or has these failings or challenges or addictions or patterns, whatever it is that is limiting them from being fully complete, if you keep attracting the same sort of person, then you got to recognize that you have some sort of magnet inside of you somewhere that resonates with that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why that is what you were saying, Christine, about the fact that you have the same flaw inside of yourself as you're mirroring and reflecting it. It's magnetic. It like attracts like. It's the way it works. So understanding that that's a good thing in a way, because if you keep attracting the same thing, that's like, I would say, spirit universe, whatever, saying, hello, look inside at that issue, because you keep drawing it in. Exactly.
Getting louder and louder. Hello.
The tap on the shoulder.
Uh-huh.
So the good news is that you're now seeing clearly whether it's something you haven't resolved yet.
Yes.
The bad news is, if you don't do anything about it, it won't change.
That's true.
So getting help from somebody like you or me who does this sort of work is absolutely your best move.
Yes. And we always want to go, oh, it's the other person. It's the other person. They're screwed up. They're screwed up.
Every single one of them.
I know. So if it's one off, I go, okay, maybe.
Right.
If it's a trend, it is so you, hun. It is so you. You really need to take a look at yourself. And I tell people this is the shit on your shoes conversation, where you're like, what is that smell? It must be the person across the table from me, or the people at the other tables. And finally go, oh my God, I have shit on the bottom of my shoes. How embarrassing is that? What this kind of person has shit on the bottom of their shoes? But then when you finally get over the hump of that, you're like, well, I can do something about that. I can wash off my shoes. I can get new soles. I can get new shoes. I mean, really, when you finally go, oh, it's me. Oh, it might have something to do with me. Now you have total control. I mean, just realizing that, it's fascinating how people go from giving themselves a hard time of, oh my gosh, this is wrong with me to, oh, I can do something about it. Look at me. Aren't I hot stuff? It's amazing what a switch that will turn for them. And then when we give them tools to start really improving the way that they look at themselves, the way that they're approaching the world, the way that they talk to themselves in their heads, because we're so hard on ourselves. I love telling people, I've never had to teach somebody to give themselves a hard time. They're way too good at it, way too good at it. We need to turn it around. And what are the good things about you? And that you're even noticing this is a good thing, and that you're going to willing to work on it is a good thing. It'll make you start feeling more empowered. Just when you get to the acknowledging part, you think it's going to make you feel worse, but you and I know, having been through it personally, and then with lots of clients, it truly does make you feel better to go, oh crap, this is what's going on. Now I can do something about it.
Right. That's true. One thing you said, by the way, I think it's going to really be good for this, because when you mentioned that you can actually get a whole new pair of shoes, that will get lots of women's attention.
Yes, I do that for women for sure.
It's intentional. You have to use that one too.
I do guys cars. I do cars for guys, but I do shoes for women.
That's a smart way of doing it. I like that. I'll have to use that myself.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, yeah. Because it's funny how I talk about, well, how much time and energy do you spend looking for, I mean, truly, let's have a conversation. Looking for a new pair of shoes. You know, you're going to go to something special and you have the outfit, you need the shoes. You'll go to the ends of the earth. Let's treat you the same way. Let's go to the ends of the earth to have you feel really good about you, because we kind of slough it off. And then, oh my gosh, if we add the next layer to dating, they're like, oh, the first one didn't work. Do you do that with shoes, hun? I don't think so. You, by God, are going to find the shoes. So have the same tenacity, right? And part of having the tenacity is, you know, you can succeed in finding those shoes. You're surrounded by shoe stores. You're surrounded by malls. Well, you're surrounded by single people. You just need to get the knowledge and the tools to pick out the right one once you've done the work on you. I know that's so simplistic, but I think it really brings it home.
Well, that's the thing I keep remembering more and more, is that we've got to make it simplistic, because the simpler the message, the easier people hear it.
Yeah. And make it relatable.
Yeah.
Like shoes and cars. Because look at how much time guys spend looking for a car. You have a specific car in mind, or specific features in mind, or a specific feeling when you're in the car. You're going to keep looking until you find the right one. And because the first 20 weren't right, that doesn't mean you're going to stop looking for cars. So yes, it can be a challenge to work on yourself and dig into old stuff. But geez, once it's gone, now you're going to be able to find the right car, the right way of feeling about yourself, the right relationship with the person who's also done work. Because it's really, if you haven't done the work either, it's really difficult to ask the questions of the other person if they've done their work. You wouldn't even know what to ask.
Right. Oh, I love this, because there's so many like great little highlights and things along the way. And I want to come back to the point to make, because I definitely realize that with my clients is oftentimes they want the quick fix. And they're not willing to put the time in. And as you said, it's like, when you realize that when you're putting more effort into buying a nice pair of shoes than you are in your own self-care and doing the inner work, there's a real issue there.
Yeah.
It's definitely something out of alignment. It's like the scales are tipped the wrong way. So so I would definitely say, if you put that much energy into looking for the new car or the shoes or whatever it is, the place to live, that effort should be a tenth of what you put into taking care of yourself. A tenth of what you do to make sure you learn how to be more happy and whole and joyful in your life. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Genius.
And it really does make people go, oh, because we go, I don't have time, or, oh, I'll just meet somebody. It'll happen organically. Well, it keeps happening organically. I mean, that's the thing. If you are meeting people that aren't the right people, I bet it's happening really organically, and it's doing it without a lot of thought. People are like, oh, I don't want to have to think about, I don't know, cat hairs. I don't want to keep thinking so hard about dating. Well, how much did you think about those shoes? And how much did you think about the car? I mean, they get frustrated with me because I keep bringing it back. Yeah. And I know it's the truth. Right. So I want you to really do that mind switch about, I deserve it. I am worth it. And I really want to be happier with me, because that's really the first foundational step.
Absolutely. Yes.
So then I can meet somebody that I'll be happy with them. Certainly not all the time, every day. Majority of the time. Majority of the time, you need to be happy with the other person, with who they are. And they can't have all these pieces that are spilled out all over the floor. It's, if you're wanting to be whole, you can't be with somebody that's not wanting to be whole too.
Well, that's the thing. When you are whole, when you've done the work to really honor and own who you are, you start discerning your choices in relationships and friendships very differently.
Yes.
And that thing about meeting somebody organically, yes, everything is about meeting somebody organic, whether it's through the apps or a blind date or walking down the street. However, that organic meeting is going to be based upon where your energy is and where your focus is and where your alignment is. So if you haven't done the work, you tend to start meeting organically people that don't work for you ultimately, where you feel dissatisfied or incomplete, or hoping they'll make you feel whole to get back to the incomplete stuff. But if you've done the inner work and you've worked with somebody like one of us too, or somebody who does the work like us, to really own and honor and respect and love yourself fully and completely, so you feel filled up yourself, then the organic people you meet will match you at that level, because the other ones won't show up on your radar. That simple.
It's really amazing how they'll just, like the whole Tai Chi thing, they just go by.
The landscape changes.
It's amazing. When I figured it out and started really working more on me and figuring out what the things that were feeling empty inside of me that I could fill up on my own. I mean, I did stuff too. I mean, I did volunteering things. I took classes. It wasn't like I sat in, my little in a lotus position and figured it all out. I did proactive things too.
Right.
I just didn't expect another person, other human being to fill me up. I figured out ways to fill me up already.
Yes.
And the outside landscape of people altered a lot when I started doing that. Some of my friendships, my relationships with some of the people in my family, as well as dating. And I was fascinated by when that happened, because I didn't really understand quite so clearly, when you change, when you do something inside of you, how different the rest of the world is. Yeah. It was the first time that happened. I was like, oh my gosh. So then it was exciting. Let's see what else I can do that makes me feel more whole. And what in the heck's going to happen outside again? I'm going to get popcorn for this one. I mean, that's really kind of how it happened. Because it helped with the, gosh, it's hard to change and it's hard to do internal work. And I'm not saying any of this is easy. It was well worth it. And having this excitement and anticipation about, yes, it's going to be crappy some, but it's going to feel real rewarding. And there would be pretty immediate, even tiny rewards. It encouraged me and spurred me to keep doing the hard work. And I think once people just get a taste of that, that's what I want to have, a taste. They can't go back.
That's the thing, is that it is, and having been through this journey, I mean, on this personal growth journey for 30 plus years, I definitely noticed the quality and the flavor of my relationships, social relationships, friendships, etc. Like that has definitely evolved and changed over years too.
Yeah.
And it's almost to the point now, well, geez, there has been that point for quite a few years, is that having done that work, yes, I still bump into people in the street and other places who haven't done the work. That's fine, but there's nothing to hook into because we're not in the same. We're not playing in the same playing field. But what excites me is when I start meeting people who have done different work, whatever they've done. But it's like I'm at this level talking, they're like, and this person comes along this level, and it's like, wow, that's cool.
It's such a cool feeling.
It is an exciting place, and yet a lot of people. I mean, I can say this another way. Some people have said how, and it's funny because I watch this and I know it's true, is that people talk about, well, when you do the work and you start getting more involved, there's less people to meet out there. And I'm like, yes and no, because yes, there are less people who've done the work. But the funny thing is that it's like the more you elevate, the easier it is to see them.
Yes. Yes. It's so satisfying. There's just, everybody's met their people, whatever it is, somebody that's, they went to the same college, or they lived in the same state, or they like the same sport or something. And even if it's just this one thing you can talk, it's like, wow, it's so fun to have somebody who has the same passion and the same excitement and lights them up. Like, I love talking about horses. It's one of my favorite things. And I love having people that go, wow, you like talking about horses. I like talking about them too. And even if we have nothing else in common, that's just exciting. So if you can get a little bit of that happening inside of you about, I'm looking, how can I grow? How can I nurture myself? How can I keep filling myself up? And I'm going to find other people that are on a similar path or filling themselves up with this similar activity or this similar learning, the similar class they're taking or the book they're reading.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I think that's interesting where people go, but I really like helping people. I really want to help them. So, well, one of the best things you can do to help people is to be a good example.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
And underscoring that is that you want to help somebody who's less well off than you are. That shouldn't be your relationship partner.
No.
But you can go, go help at the animal shelter or feed the homeless or help at the nursing home. If you want to help, go do things like that where you make a difference in other people's lives. But then you get to walk away free and complete because you've given and you feel fulfilled and you feel grateful and you also feel thankful for the life you have and you walk away free. But the thing is, your relationship shouldn't be a service project, as I mentioned.
And what I found too, that's such a good point, is the people who have these really empty places and then they'll go to some place and volunteer and gift their time. They don't feel as filled up as they thought they were going to when they leave, which is tragic because I know when I finally figured this out and then I started going and I was like, I'm already so full. And it's like a topping off thing that I see how good they feel because I'm there helping or gifting my time or bringing stuff. And then it's like it's this extra cherry on top. But I already felt like a worthwhile person. I already felt like a good person in general. And now I can go take some of this goodness there. And then the people that are there, when I see them excited and feeling better, it's like it's an extra boost, but it wasn't an empty place inside of me. Because as much as we want somebody else to fill us up, it never works. It never works because I think we don't always believe it. And so if we don't believe it, you really can't internalize it.
It's true. Absolutely.
And I've seen people, especially widowed people. I think I might have mentioned this before, but it was such a surprise to me because it wasn't we all have stuff, but this was not one of mine. They had felt insecure about who they were and how they looked and how smart they were and all those things when they married. And they married a really good person who told them all those things positively. They never really owned it. So now their spouse dies and their self-confidence has completely gone back to almost less than it was before because they never took it in. They never completely believed it, which is tragic.
Oh, it's sad. And so many people, unfortunately, have their self-value based upon their relationship failures.
Yes.
Not even their relationship, but the failures of the relationship. They use that as the cross to bear they drag from place to place, which is such a self-deprecating thing. And again, that's the codependency piece. Is they're caught up in the paradigm where somehow the value of who you are is based on something you experienced in the past. And it's not who you are. But the belief system ties you in, so you're going to feel trapped by it, which is unfortunate. And again, not valid, not needed, and not required at any level. But we do it to ourselves somehow because maybe it's feelings of self-worth that are tied to it, or something to do with the feeling that somehow we failed somehow, and therefore we don't deserve to be okay. It's like, none of that's true.
No.
Own up to your greatness, frankly.
Yes. Very good, Barry.
Yes.
So now we've talked a lot about how things that cause us to be codependent and the ways that we attract people and can be attracted to them. And so now we're going to take a break and we'll come back and talk about ways to come out on the other side.
There we go.
Yes. So we'll be back in a minute.
See ya. Briefly.
Yes. That was really pretty.
It was nice little music piece.
I love the music too. So this is Barry and Christine going solo media, talking. Let's talk about dating, and we're talking about codependency and
Yes.
how to notice it, how to spot it, how to realize that you're looking for unintentionally codependent relationships, or you're wanting to be the codependent person with somebody else, and what to do about it, how to avoid it, how to heal from it, what steps you can take so that you can have codependent people that are looking for that kind of relationship walk by instead of attached to you like Velcro.
And frankly, as said in the title, but the 3 words you don't want to hear from a date, you complete me is a clear indication that if you feel someone's going to tell it to you, that means they feel like they're missing something. And if you're saying you complete me, look for the gaps that you think you have and then do something about it. Yeah. Before you date.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Because, well, dating will certainly bring it out and show it to you. It's a big spotlight. It certainly did me, you know, and you talked about, yes, you talked about our past relationships where we were like, oh my God, you know, I think I really wasn't a whole person at all.
Right. Oh God. Yeah. The looking outside to fill up what was inside was such an errant approach. But again, just to recap for a second, I've said this before as well in the interview here as well, is that we've been trained by our society for millennia. I mean, for decades, with all the movies and books and love songs and TV shows, how love is codependent. You know, it's like I mean, Harry Nilsson wrote a song called "Can't Live With Living Is Without You." Oh, yeah, you're going to commit suicide because they're not with you? That's not exactly a good way to live. So you complete me, same thing. And there's so many song titles. I mean, almost, I don't say everyone, but almost every love song out there is based on the premise that you must be codependent to have love.
Yes.
So if you're feeling codependent, it's not like going, why did I do it to myself? No, you were trained that way.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is how do you untrain, or how do you relearn? Because that's what we want to talk about now.
Yeah. So first acknowledging, oh, I must be doing this because look at the kind of relationships I've been attracting and been attracted to. People that I think I want them to complete me, or they want me to complete them. I mean, that really is a very telltale sign.
Yeah.
So if that's come up in your mind and you've heard it from other people, take notice.
And just to be clear, admitting to the fact that you may have been codependent and you may feel that way, it will not kill you.
No.
Because some people are so scared of admitting it, they're being like, but if I do that, my image will be shattered, I'll die. It's like, no, none of that is true.
No, it's really a good thing.
Yes.
Admitting is the first step to healing. You know, they say that in all the addiction things. And I don't know that this is an addiction. I think it's more of it was survival when we were a kid.
Absolutely.
And it's a habit. It just becomes a habit. And we don't really look at, well, why am I doing this? Is it really making my life better? Is it making my life, do I feel more whole having relationships this way? I mean, that's a really good question. Does it really fill up those places? So you go, oh, I admit I have some empty places in me. Huh? Are they really getting filled up by this relationship? Usually no.
No. That is in my vernacular. I talk about awareness being the first step. So it's about that sort of ownership as being the owning up to it is key. It's like, that's true. It's like, because you can't fix what you can't see.
No.
So being aware and just noticing is like, oh yeah, I realize now those relationships, and of course the thing I talk about as well is that serialization of relationships where you go, oh, I did the same thing there. and there, and there, and there, in all these relationships.
Yeah.
And then you recognize being the common denominator, that's where the work is, which is good news because it means you can do the work. Because if the problem was in all those 4 people, or 5 people, or 17 people, it'd be hard work trying to track them down and fix everything. So the relief is you can do it all yourself in the mirror. How amazing is that?
I know. And wonder and acknowledging, oh, it is me. As you said, nobody dies. And it's like, oh, I'm such a human being. Wow. How about that? I'm a human being. I mean, I get people to say that out loud and they're like, oh, I guess I do feel okay about that. And then what do you do about it? How do you take positive steps? So first we've talked about looking for the empty places inside of you.
Right.
And they're pretty well known. You know, you don't think you're lovable or smart, lovable enough, smart enough, pretty enough, tall enough,
worthy
enough.
You're worthy, deserving. You made too many mistakes in the past. You've got some sort of black mark against your record, which makes you not lovable enough.
Yep.
You don't believe you're lovable because your parents never told you you were lovable. And then we get that's a whole different story about our parents doing that to us. But the truth is that we do carry a lot of these voices inside that weren't ours originally.
Yes.
And so oftentimes, and I've said this to clients, it's like when you start realizing what you're telling yourself, just double check whose voice was that put it in you in the first place, because it wasn't you. I guarantee that voice came from somebody else that you then bought into, said, oh, they must be right, so I'll believe it myself.
Yeah.
So understanding that all these things that are holding you back from being complete are just that. They're simply words trying to hold you back from being complete because you already are complete. So the work is to remove those voices and to realign those voices so they're in support of you versus holding you back, so to speak.
Yes.
So that's part of the work, yes.
And that is an excellent point, that we were born whole and complete.
Yes.
People told us we weren't. Maybe things happen that make us feel not complete anymore.
Right.
That our pieces got covered up, they got battered and bruised, they got denied, other things took their place or got piled on top. There's still that whole and complete person inside of you that you were born being. I mean, I think that gives people some hope to go, oh yeah, that's right. I think there was a person in there. Well, they're still there. So how do we do the excavation to get through all the riffraff and all the crap that's happened, you know, that people have told us that wasn't the truth, or we made up that wasn't the truth, that made us stop feeling whole and complete?
Well, the thing is, you have to look at this as really like you're clearing out a storage unit.
Yes.
And I've done it a few times, so I know what it feels like. So basically, you got to realize that once you do open up and see the whole smorgasbord of things in front of you, you got to start sorting through and decide what you want to keep, what you want to throw away.
Yeah.
Because a lot of stuff in there is valuable and is who you are, your worthiness, your deservedness, your love, your compassion, your caring, your humanity, all these things. And there's all the crap that's around it that basically is like falling apart and you want to get rid of, which are all the voices that were imprinted upon you or added to you by people who you thought knew better, who may not have done that. So all the things that are lies and falsehoods that you've taken on for yourself that deny you your wholeness. And as you said, we were and we are whole and complete. We were born that way. We are that way. We just put a patina on it of things that are not that way because we believe that somehow we're not, because well, in my case, my high school peers kept labeling me with things that I took on as being true because they thought I felt pressured and bullied by them. You know, just as impactful as if your parents were not joyful, maybe they were abusive, happens with peers too. So just be aware that your upbringing has a lot of impact about how you feel about yourself, and it's not your fault. But the good news is, as an adult, you can do something about it.
Yes. And I was thinking about one of the other stumbling blocks that I find for my clients when I get them to start saying more positive things about themselves. One of the messages they got growing up was, that's egotistical and you're conceited and nobody will like you if you talk well about yourself. And isn't that like the double whammy that already you're feeling not good enough, and then you're not allowed to say, well, I am kind of good at this.
Well, see, I come from a Jewish background, so we were never meant to be good enough.
No.
We were imprinted with that, you know, the Jewish guilt thing and that stuff we looked at is like, you know, we make mistakes. It's like we screwed up, so we're not good enough type stuff. And I mean, I'm joking in a way, but it's like, it's true in the cultural piece. Definitely that upbringing was imprinting that way. And I look back at my parents, and they did the best. I mean, let's be clear. I'm being really clear about this. I love my parents. They did a great job. I mean, Mum passed away in 2012. My dad will probably pass away this year. However, they did the best they could, but they didn't know necessarily as much as I know now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the gift that I bring, is that those people around me benefit from what I've learned because I went through my own journey. But and my parents didn't have the ability or the freedom to learn the things I've learned. So they did the best they could, which wasn't where I wanted to be. And most of our parents did the best they could with what they knew how, because of the way they were raised.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the stuff we're talking about here, you can actually, if you want to be talking about it on a meta level, is that a lot of us are doing work at this point in life, especially when you go see counselors, therapists, coaches, guides, or you are one, is you're doing things that basically are ending hereditary patterns that have been going back generations.
Yes.
So when you do this work, be extremely thankful, one, you can, and two, be humbled and grateful because you get to stop a pattern that's been running through generations. That's amazing work.
Yes. And get to be a good example for the next generation.
Absolutely.
That's one of the best news. And your life will feel more, I've certainly found this, whole and complete and energized and interesting and relaxed. Because if you're constantly, I like striving, I like learning, I like growing, but I felt like I had this weight attached to my ankle of all the crap of, well, but you'll never make it, or you're not good enough. And there's all these things that were so negative that I didn't feel like I could keep, like, go, oh, I want to learn more about that because I don't know more about it, instead of, well, I'll never learn that because I'm not smart enough.
Right.
Yeah. It's such a mind switch.
That's and because also what we're talking about here is not academic education, because a lot of people have got paradigms about never good at school. And, I was never an A student most of the way through school, except when I was right at the beginning. So I recognizing that all this work is something that is available to you anytime you choose to say yes to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you work somebody like one of us who's been through it enough times that we're pretty good at teaching it, then you get great support.
Yeah. And another thing people I hear, well, I'm too old.
Oh.
And it doesn't matter what age they are. I've had people in their 30s, 40s, into their 80s. I mean, it really has not been a specific decade where people think they're too old. Everybody, every age group has told me they think they're too old, which you're never too old. What I say, since I experienced a husband that didn't wake up one morning, as long as you wake up, you're never too old.
That's a pretty profound way of saying it.
It does bring it home, right?
Yeah. As a quote from one of my favorite authors said, Richard Buck said, if you're waiting to find out if your mission on Earth is finished, if you're still here, it isn't.
Nope.
So same point. Yeah, it's like, if you can still breathe, you still function, you can do the work, and it's time, because you never know what's ahead.
No. And what new glorious thing you can discover and learn and improve your mental, emotional, physical well-being if you can be open to, I'm going to learn this because it's going to make me an even better person, not to beat myself up. Because that's the hard thing too, is we're like, well, I have to learn this because I'm a screw up. Well, no, you're learning this so that you don't screw up.
Absolutely.
It's such a different way of talking to ourselves, of looking at ourselves. As soon as I stopped beating myself up like I used to until my 30s, as soon as I stopped doing that, I didn't let other people do it either, because I found that when I would beat myself up, I didn't even have a filter for other people doing it.
No, it's reinforcement, in fact.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I recognize those words. Yeah, I say them to myself all the time.
It's like, come on in, they're welcome, because I'm used to having them talk to myself anyway, so just add more fuel to the fire.
Yes, because you're like, why do people treat me badly? Well, how are you talking to yourself?
Right.
If you're talking to yourself nicely, you're not going to let other people talk to you meanly.
And this is the challenge I know that I've had with some of my clients. And it's funny, throwing back to the talk about you said about shoes and cars earlier, is that many people, when they first work together with us, is they have this self-perception of their own value where they're not willing to invest in themselves to get support. Mm-hmm. And for me, a lot of times my work isn't about selling them my services. It's about convincing them that they deserve to spend on themselves so they get what they want. Because when they've done the work, they're like, I'll invest, no problem. Because they
Yes.
know the value. But it's
Yes.
funny, this backwards forwards thing. So
Yes.
on my clients, I've had to say to them, it's like, you may not think it's worth spending the money or spending the time or the effort, the energy, the focus. I'm like, but as you said, with the shoes and the cars, we do so much energy for that. But when you do the work, you start looking back, and I look back at the years I've spent in my own journey as well, how much I spend and how much time I spent on that. At the beginning of that, I never would have started. If I knew where I was going to be now and how much I put in, I never would have started. To be clear. But frankly, that first intro was enough to like give me a taste, and I was like, I can see the value in this now. And then everything from that point was easy.
Yeah.
So with coaching, same thing. It's like that first time investment can be a little bit like, don't think I'm worth it. Because when you say you can't afford it, or when you say that I don't want to spend the money, 90% of the time that's because it's a worthiness issue inside.
Yes.
But when you start to do the work, where you start discovering you are worthy, and it then becomes, well, of course.
Why wouldn't I?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Boy, that first leap of faith. We really
Right.
do have to just sit with them while they work themselves up to that leap of faith, that they deserve it, they're worthy, that their life is going to be better if they just trust. Because it is really a leap of faith at first. Because as much as we talk about the successes we've had and that our clients have had, they haven't had it yet. So
Right.
I really get the leap of faith and honor that a lot.
And the piece of that, which comes back into the topic, is that I went through, I know you've been through it too, back when we were younger, was carrying this burden of undervaluing ourselves because we didn't feel whole, complete, and didn't feel like we deserved everything. We didn't feel, worthy. So the relationships we would attract mirrored that.
Yes, always.
So it really is about this place. And again, we talk about awareness, and other pieces of the steps to do. You start looking in the mirror. Just a quick tip: you start looking in the mirror and start loving who you see back in the mirror as a first step.
Yes,
that's my free advice for the one. Is like, it starts with putting some love back into your own gaps and holes that you feel inside, and healing those wounds inside, because then you are more whole, more complete, and then you don't need somebody else to complete you. Then you're free to love what you love and attract the person you want to be with, who's already whole and complete as well.
And certainly one of the litmus tests is, because I've said this to people, stare at yourself in the mirror, say 3 nice things about yourself, or can you high five yourself? And if you can't, then maybe we could do some work together.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't in my 20s. I couldn't in my 20s at all. It was not even available to me. And now I do it every day. I make a practice of doing it every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels really good.
I love it. That's so good.
Yeah.
I do it with gratitude, but same thing. It's really it's finding the things to amplify and reflect back, because you are deserving, you are whole, you are worthy of all of this.
Yes.
And it's time to claim it.
It is. And our world generally could always use people feeling more positive about themselves, having more positive energy and vibrations out in the world, not being quite so worn down and tired, because the more we give to ourselves, the more energized we get. So I tell people, if you won't do it for yourself, then do it for your kids, do it for your boss, do it for the world, do it for the animals of the world. Some people, when you're really in that I'm less place, you want to keep doing for other people. Okay, do it for them. Come work with us to do it for the other person. I could start with that, and I'm okay with that. I don't have
absolutely,
any.
yeah. Afterwards, you'll know why we're doing it, but right now you can believe that's the truth.
Sure. If it gets you started on this road of self-improvement, I'm okay. I don't care what door you come through.
Right.
I have a variety of doors people come through.
Just come through one of the doors.
Please. Just open one of the doors.
Exactly.
And the way that you do that is...
There we go. Perfect segue.
I just trust that it's going to happen. And it's so funny how often that happens. So the way to get a hold of me is, my website is www.theperfectcatch.com. And you can click on what's holding you back from love, and we can have a personal, private, introspective conversation about where are you now, and how is your self-confidence, and how is your self-love, and what kind of people are you attracting and being attracted to, and if it's not to your satisfaction, then what could you do about it? What could we do this journey together? You can also send me a personal email to Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And you can reach me on the social media platforms of Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest and YouTube. And did I say Twitter?
You did, but you didn't say Instagram.
Instagram. I know it. I'm counting down my fingers, and there's always a finger that
I
needs
know.
another
I'm
name.
mirroring you on this side, going, yeah, right.
You're always so helpful, Barry. Thank you. And please tell people how they can get a hold of you, sir.
Certainly. I'm in the same position where I have a website and I have a social media, and also you can reach me by email. My website is barryselby.com. Actually, a friend of mine is in the middle of retweaking my website, so there should be somewhere on the website a button under. It should be under coaching, or should be just on the top navigation saying "Let's chat." Click on that, and we sign up for a free conversation. And that's a gift from me to you. It's a private, complimentary conversation, 30 minutes, where we can have a conversation. Basically, sees where you are, where you're looking to go, and if I can help you get there. And if you want to work together, because to be honest, unless you're willing to do the work, it isn't going to be with me. So just to be clear, you can drop me an email at barry@barryselby.com, and on social media, I'm on all the platforms. Although Facebook is Barry Selby author, and Instagram is the real Barry Selby, but everywhere else, so Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, not Instagram, did that one, YouTube, and also Clubhouse. I'm at Barry Selby, so you can find me there. And on Clubhouse, I've definitely getting busy lately. I've been leading some interesting rooms and conversations because it's about giving value in an audio format. But check out my YouTube channel because I've got over 1,000 videos there you can peruse, including these that get placed there as well on YouTube. So you check my channel, which is youtube.com/Barry Selby. So come find me, let's talk, and let's see how either one of us can help you get on the road to where you want to go.
You're so prolific, Mr. Selby.
Been busy.
This is really good. And your talks are really fun. I've enjoyed listening to them.
Thank you.
So we're always here every Thursday, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, all the other times in between. We'd love to hear your comments, your questions. If you have a subject you'd like us to talk about, please send that as well. I was thinking, it should be fun to ask for other people's ideas about what they'd like to hear.
That could be very provocative. That'd be fun.
I think so. I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah.
So till next week, we'll be back to talk about dating.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.